I got a text from Mark, like he sent that at like 5:45. But by the time I looked at it, he sent another one at 6 o'clock, saying that he's got to stop by Trident, look out for a green VW van. Don't know, about 10 minutes later, we were all out here. A phone call came through. His brother just said, somebody dropped me down to Tottenham Hill. I think my brother's been shot.
I heard gunshots that just echoed out. They were frighteningly loud. They just were frighteningly loud. That's all I can really say. And then the burly men screaming, I thought, that is serious. That's police. Through the railings, I could actually see the police working on him, administering what I guess they would call CPR. So I saw the air ambulance land behind the bus, and then I actually saw the paramedics, like they rushed out. They ran towards where Mark was laying down in the street. I remember seeing them leave. And it was just like, what I found amazing was the difference between this, how they rushed towards the scene and how they walked back slowly with their heads down. I knew that whoever was on the floor was dead.
On the 4th of August 2011 in Tottenham, North London, a minicab was stopped by officers from Operation Trident. What happened next remains unclear. However, 2 shots were fired by the CO19 officers. Shortly after this, 28-year-old male Mark Duggan was pronounced dead by paramedics at the scene. In the days that followed, a chain of events occurred that involved a peaceful protest being overshadowed by violent clashes with the police.
I'm 51 years old. I have been to demonstrations and engaged in issues with police officers since the age of 14. And in all that time, I've never seen the police behave or respond in the way they did.
The disorder spiraled out of control and ultimately led to the devastation of Tottenham High Road. This was the start of 4 days of rioting, mass looting, burning and destruction which spread right across London and other major cities in England. On the 4th day of what was becoming the largest case of mass civil unrest in modern British history, 14 passionate young people from across London came together to discuss what immediate positive action they could take. The 14 young people, which include myself, make up the steering group of a non-profit organisation called Fully Focused Community. During the emergency meeting, it became abundantly clear that the group felt a unanimous sense of frustration. It was agreed that the most constructive course of action we could take would be to go out in the community with our production team. Our aim was to engage in a deeper conversation about what was unfolding around us. We decided the best place to start our mission would be in Tottenham and headed to where Mark Duggan grew up.
I know Mark because of this estate. It's called Broadwater Farm, and because we're such family-orientated people, we're like a community, you know what I mean? We're just known as one, so we all get to know each other growing up. Boom, little boys, we play marbles, play pogs. You remember pogs? I describe Mark as a good family man, because even when it comes to his kids, he's always there 100%. 100%.
He loved Simone, always has, always will. His children, he just adored him. He lived for them. He was a real family man.
Good father, good friend, like, could ask anybody on the estate, old and young, No one's really got a bad thing to say about him.
Before Mark died, he got into the arts in a sense, rapping, writing poetry. And I think that's Mark. He found himself, although it was a bit too late because he was taken away from us. But
Remember, he had a way of lighting up a room when he walked into the room with his gold tooth showing, and he would light up a room. He was full of joy.
He had time for everybody.
I remember hearing the news about Mark on the Thursday, and I went down to Broadwater Farm on the Friday, and there was a huge amount of frustration from all sorts of people, from all walks of life, whether they were young or old, black or white. People were upset that Mark had died.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened for a couple of days until we decided we needed to go to the police station. Because the fact of the matter is that the police didn't see fit to come and to make Mark Duggan's parents aware that he'd been killed out on the streets there. They heard everything through the media.
You murdered him. You murdered him, and what? Did you think he had no family to come and tell? Did you think he was a nobody?
Rather than letting us unfold what's happening on the TV, the decent thing to have done, whether it was the responsibility of the IPCC or the Metropolitan Police Force, was to come and tell us exactly what had happened.
People have a right to know what has happened in circumstances where often the families weren't present. So they don't know, but they want to know desperately how it is that somebody has died. So it seems to me those are the absolute pinnacle of circumstance in which they should be properly represented, funded by the state, in order to make these inquiries.
At around 5 p.m. on Saturday the 6th of August, Mark Duggan's family, supported by the community, began a peaceful march which left Broadwater Farm and headed to Tottenham Police Station. The family were hoping to get some answers.
There's about 30 of us initially. We've gone down there. We just asked, like, when we've got there, it's like they were expecting us coming, because as we was leaving the farm, the cameras were on to, like, they were all watching us, like, you could see them moving, like, watching us, yeah? The shutters on the front, the actual front door where you walk in just to go for genuine inquiries, that was halfway down with 3 policemen standing there. Like, when we got there now, they said, can we help you? So basically we told them, yeah, like, they saw the banners and everything, yeah, we want answers for Mark Duggan. Is there anybody here that can answer our questions or can help us?
People just wanted to speak to the police in Tottenham Police Station and ask what happened to Mark, and nobody was acknowledging the fact that all these people were standing outside the police station. It was just cold down there, like people were just sad, like people were angry as well at the same time, but it wasn't an anger, like a violent anger, it was a hurt anger, do you know what I mean? Like it was a cry.
There appears to me to have been deliberate confusion and buck passing as to who was responsible for informing the family after he died, and nobody seems to be giving proper answers as to why it was that they were treated in such an appalling way.
It was just a simple little thing. They knew we was coming. If they had somebody down there in the first place to speak to us, we would have been gone within half an hour. There would have been none of this build-up of people down there, but we really want to know, like, who's going to be accountable for this?
Yes, the family went down to the police station to get some answers and to seek redress, and their wishes should have been granted. They should have been seen. They should have been treated with dignity, and they weren't.
The family's treatment by the Met Police and the IPCC, frankly, is quite disgraceful, and I think that it follows a pattern of other cases where misleading information is put into the public domain, misinformation attempts to smear the character of the person who's died to somehow excuse away the actions of the police. It's a process that we see time and time again in these kind of cases.
It was a really emotional, highly charged evening because this misnomer, this false information had been put out. They'd been involved in a shootout, and everybody who knew him or knew of him or knew his family actually knew that would be totally incorrect, and that just really heightened tensions and heightened emotions and certainly solidified the belief that he'd been executed.
On top of the lack of communication and response by the police, the media initially reported the incident as a shootout. It was later confirmed by ballistic reports that the bullet found lodged in the police officer's radio was consistent with being fired from a police-issue Heckler & Koch MP5 submachine gun. Reports confirmed a gun was found at the scene inside a sock. Ballistic reports also found that the gun had not been fired. Later, additional newspaper reports went on to say there was no evidence Mark Duggan had been carrying the gun when shot by police.
What I've seen from the media's perspective, a lot of it is if they can't get the truth, they make it up.
Yeah. He was not a gangster. I do not like that word. They're portraying him to be a devil. He's not a devil. All these pictures they're putting up with his son in the fucking paper, all of that, that's hurting for the family. That's only hurt for the family.
Now they're bringing out stories that infidelity and all this. What's that got to do with anything? Like, why? What they want to do is destroy his character, innit? It's called character assassination.
You know, we don't know who to trust, who to speak to. We've kept dignified, and it's painful to see what the media has written.
This is something that they do to our community all the time. Every time that a black person is killed in a racist incident or linked to police, they always try to undermine them. And they've managed to do it with lots of them. Because if you grow up in an estate like this, I'm sorry, you're not going to grow up to be an angel.
He didn't choose to be born on Broadwater's farm. He didn't choose to grow up on that rough estate. But he made the most of his life. He was almost 30 before he died, and he got to 30 without having a criminal record. So ask anybody, even people that don't really know him, that know of him, they will only tell you positive things about Mark. So that says something about somebody growing up in a rough community and being respected and liked.
He was known as a peacemaker on Broadwater Farm.
Yeah, he was.
I remember saying, oh, something's going to kick off. And when it happened, I thought, wow, that shows you how frustrated and how angry people were. And it wasn't just about Mark either. I suppose it was about all the other people that have died in police custody. It was too raw, too soon for another Broadwater Farm resident to have died at the hands of the police.
The spark that lit the fuse was the beating of the young girl.
Like, you just see loads of people running, and like, I come back and there's people showing me videos of police beating up one girl on the floor.
Started here now.
They started here? When they started here now, what happened?
Other people just got involved. That's when it all got violent.
It's a girl! Look how he's dealing with her!
The police's absolute and total lack of response was shocking. It amazed everybody. I've never seen that before. And the longer that they failed to respond, the bolder the kids became. And then eventually, it just kicked off.
The atmosphere was literally hot. There was so much body heat. There was 2 fires. Everything was it looked like a movie.
I kind of had to see for myself what I was reading about on Twitter and friends were texting me about, and what I saw was pretty extraordinary.
Over the next 3 days, rioting, looting and burning continued to spread throughout North, South, East and West London.
I've seen a lot of younger guys and myself kind of down there, and they just kind of wanted to get like war with the police, basically.
I was just standing on the side of the road. I was told to move by the police officer. I moved and it pushed me and let his dog bite me.
You just let the dog bite you?
Just let the dog bite me for no reason.
We got a call out to a house fire. We noticed that obviously it wasn't an house fire and it was at the Sony building, and the flames was like immense. We parked up outside the Sony place and it was so hot we had to park the fire engine around the corner.
As soon as it started going into riots, that was it, the atmosphere changed. Everyone was just going crazy. No one was listening to the police. But at the same time, the police weren't listening to us.
People in Hackney, they were focusing more towards the police, and I saw a lot of aggression towards the police. It's like, at the particular time, I didn't see a lot of young people trying to loot or steal anything at that time. I just saw a lot of anger vented towards the police, which I wasn't surprised about.
They're talking about youths and black youths and that being on the streets, but I'm telling you now, there was big people there, multicultural people, taking stuff from the building site and setting up barricades for the police.
Camden was just, it had a funny feeling to it, like everywhere had a funny feeling. All the kids on my estate were just riding around with their hoods up, everyone was a bit angry, and when I was walking past people's houses I could just hear like, Camden's gonna kick off, it's gonna kick off in Camden.
I actually saw fire from far away and I was like, oh gosh, that looks like it's near my house or my house, and I kept on walking like kind of worried, and when I actually got down there really close, I saw the fire and I saw some people crying.
I walked into the crowd, all I see is a man coming out with laptops in his arm, thinking, oh, what's this? And I walked into the crowd, the guy just pushed me around, I was like, oh, I'm in a riot.
Come down, see my high street was in tatters, you know? Like, man's them really warring and robbing for nothing. Like, that's it, robbing for nothing.
I see a couple things happening still, like happening at Tesco and that, but man wasn't even involved.
So this Tesco here?
Yeah,
bad people running around.
Balaclavas,
running around, bellied up, hooded.
Some not, some big.
22 London boroughs in total were affected. On Monday the 8th of August, while the unrest continued in London, looting and clashes with the police erupted in Birmingham and Wolverhampton.
It was bad, but it was raw like a film, you get me, car. Like, it was madness in London, and then when it come down here, obviously I don't live too far from here, you got your local shop, your local petrol station on the news talking about madness has gone on, so.
There was tension, the tension was like, it was awful.
I was really, really scared because the guys were holding like anything. They were holding weapons, they were holding sticks, they were holding just anything they could get their hands on, they were holding on to.
There were further reports of fires, looting and clashes with the police in Liverpool, Manchester city centre and Salford.
When we heard like Mark Duggan was killed, like people was just like just shocked, like wondering what it's about and that, innit? He used to come down here, his brother, so people like knew him round here, and like the atmosphere was just, could feel the tension and the friction, like people like could tell like something was gonna go on.
Because what the police done? Because it only started when that happened. It just went sporadic all over the place, didn't it? You know what I mean? Just happening everywhere.
If he didn't get shot dead, then I don't think all them riots would have happened.
People screaming, buildings ablast. What the fuck? How'd the hell this all start? Because police murdered our brother Mark. This was the spark which ignited the flame that spread pandemonia around the UK. Communities destroyed, homes burnt to the ground, shops cleared out and looted by everyone around. Violence is spreading, war against the police, who despite their authority are seemingly weak. Control is gone, it's well out of hand. Things are so desperate in this lawless land. Vigilantes are out now and in full force. BMP armed with bats and Sikhs with holstered swords. People are living in fear now, the atmosphere is tense. The conflict of everyone's feelings is incredibly immense. I'm longing for this to be over, for normality to be restored, so my children can carry on living and play happily outdoors.
To go back out there on the Sunday and see it for myself, I was like, whoa. The cars were still burning, the smoke was still thick, the shops were completely gone, smashed in. People lost their houses, their homes, their children's rooms.
I absolutely condemned and continue to condemn the kind of mindless violence and robbery and criminality that went on. But what sparked those riots was people being angry about very real issues and feeling that they had no voice and no one was listening to them.
I think the main emotion I would say is saddened, really. Watching the pictures on the news and getting that sense of all the things that were happening, and I think people's reactions to it, it was really quite hard to watch.
I think I felt devastated to see the place where you're living and growing up being destroyed, to see people's lives being destroyed.
As communities began the process of coming to terms with the devastation around them, the real cost of the riots were starting to become apparent. Many people suffered terrible losses.
I received a phone call from my uncle saying the building's on fire. Obviously you think, all right, the building's on fire, but you know, everyone's possessions is still, you're thinking, yeah, the fire brigade's gonna come and sort out whatever not, but obviously they phoned the fire brigade. The fire brigade said they couldn't come because there's no police support. So obviously I received then about 10 minutes later, my uncle phoned me back and he said the building's gone. It's just like, I was just really upset, innit, really. Like, my brain weren't even thinking straight. Like, I don't understand why the people that done it had to go to that extent.
In Tottenham, the local leisure complex was set up as a crisis centre to help victims who had lost their homes and businesses. Donations of food, medical supplies, clothes, bedding and furniture came flooding in until the centre was unable to take any more.
Today there was a lady with 4 young children. Her home was burnt. She lived above the carpet places, but there's quite a number of flats above. And her home was burnt, completely burnt out. I remember seeing her when she came in this morning, and she was, you know, it brought tears to my eyes. And when she left, she was in such better spirits from having talked to people. I spent quite a lot. I spent a fair bit of time with her.
My little boy is 3, so he doesn't really, know anything. But my 2 girls, it's like they're always asking about like what's happened and their photos and pictures and toys that they've got there. It's hard to deal with still. It still gets to me sometimes because it's like I'm just in a different world now, kind of thing. Like thinking what's gonna happen. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh no, the fire was out of order, man. Like where I was doing my business, yeah, I seen like there was a shop, yeah, and a house above it, innit, and someone had burnt the shop out, and then the family upstairs like lost their house, and they weren't really involved in that. Like they were throwing shit out of the windows to stop people coming into the shop downstairs, innit. And like, in the end, they lost their house because of other people's selfishness, really, innit. So
burning down people's houses, I think that's totally bang out of order, like full stop.
I think there's got to be something wicked inside you to kind of just go down and burn down people's stuff.
To see the place where our mothers and our grandmothers do their shopping being destroyed in that way, and the realization that to destroy somewhere where you live then it shows a deeper disconnectedness and a lack of engagement for the place where we're growing up and where we live.
Yeah, it was nuts, innit? Because man have to use the high street, innit? Like Post Office, Iceland, Morrison's, we have to use them shops every day. And Primark, them shops are for the broke people, innit? And we're broke, so why are we gonna lick down the broke shops?
We need some time out to really think about what just took place, to think about the consequences of all our actions.
The initial reaction to the riots was widespread anger and condemnation. Across the country, there was an urgent need to find those responsible and punish them. This widespread condemnation rapidly became focused on young people, especially by the media.
The media coverage of the riots has been one of the saddest episodes I've witnessed as a politician. The lack of understanding that I've seen by mainstream journalists has been frankly appalling. It's a disgrace.
Tottenham was kind of typecast and painted as this despicable, thug-like area.
I think words like chavs and hoodies are used by the media and in collusion with the government to demonise pretty much an entire young generation. David Cameron, as I say, used the phrase feral thugs. It's about dehumanising young people, removing their difference and the variety within those different groups and removing their humanity. And once you do that, you don't have to understand them because, hey, they're lesser than us. So you know, why should we bother to understand what their thoughts, feelings and motives are?
The mass media for the mass market, that's exactly what it's designed for. And what they're doing, as they did in the 80s, is they're whipping up hysteria. And that then gives government the power and the nod to go in hard on young people.
Initial media reports led the public to believe that the majority of rioters were young people. Of those charged by police and brought to court, 26% were aged 10 to 17, 27% aged 18 to 20, 42% were aged between 21 and 39, and 5% were over 40. This was followed up by the judicial system clamping down hard and handing out tough sentences. Many people who appeared before the courts were sent straight to prison.
Once again, it seemed to me there must have been a directive from either the Home Office or the Lord Chancellor or some source behind the scenes saying, and it's the old story, I've heard it so many times, deterrence. You know, it's the big stick approach, which is, you know, prison is the deterrent. So we'll start off with really heavy sentences and this will shake them up. 4 years, 5 years. I've never thought prison is a deterrent. You only really lock people up if they're going to commit the same offence again and they're a risk to themselves and the community. But I don't think most of the young people in this category fall into that.
When we're looking at the public interest to prosecute, you have to look at the context of a crime and take into account the aggravating features and the mitigating features. These were very serious crimes. They were widespread crimes. They took place over a long period of time, and they took place when communities were in a very vulnerable position. So those are factors that make the crimes more serious, and those are things we would have taken into account when we were deciding whether to prosecute.
Although there are clearly a significant amount of adults involved in the riots, over 50% of people brought to the courts were aged between 10 and 20. We can't ignore this fact, so we have to ask, why were there such a large number of young people involved? What has led to so many young people taking to the streets to steal and cause mass damage and destruction?
The underlying causes behind the riots are complex and cannot be
people tell me from across the boroughs is that there seems
to me, I find it heartbreaking that young people feel the need to.
So this is the first coalition summer, and we have riots.
Well, we know that there were something like 3,500 crimes reported to police in London during that time relating to
I mean, there are some pretty pertinent statistics which I think the government seems to be ignoring.
The impact of the riots was pure criminality. That was people taking advantage.
Those who say to me that they were protesting
Think about it, police were helpless. They weren't really...
But as communities, we bear responsibility.
It is how you treat each other.
The one where you're rioting for a reason, you're not really looting for a reason. Like there's no national
demonstration was the best way of communicating.
They don't feel like
people just get too much influence off celebrities immediately.
Enough is enough.
Everyone seems to have their own opinions and theories about the riots of August 2011. The issues within our society are definitely deep and complex, so in our search for solutions, we felt it was vital to have a deeper conversation about some of the major issues within our society.
Education in the first place, and if you do get the money together to get an education and get in debt for the rest of your life in order to get an education for that job that should be there ain't no job there.
You know what I'm saying? There's bad points and bad viewpoints in every side. The police, politicians and the youths and people that are not doing anything and just watching it on TV.
If they're rebelling against the police, why are they setting fire to shops?
When whatever happened in Tottenham, what happened? Where were all the police?
I keep on hearing the Prime Minister talking about actions have consequences. He needs to realise that his actions has consequences and these are the consequences of his actions. Would this help us to gain an understanding about some of the possible motivations for the riots? And could it also provide us with some clues as to how they could be prevented from ever happening again?
Let Mark Duggan be the last. Let Mark Duggan be the last. We've got no more children to give to you. We've got no more sacrifices to make.
A major issue that has come up over and over again is the relationship between police and communities across Britain. Deaths in police custody represent one of the most contentious issues. How do these incidents affect our communities?
Tottenham has a history of deaths in police custody, and I'm thinking of Joy Gardner, Cynthia Jarrett, Roger Sylvester, and now Mark Duggan. And it is the case that we have had riots in the past because of these deaths.
We have got to stay together and we've got to keep strong because this impact, I know, can tear families apart. And because of being so high profile, it's going to drag on and on and on. And that's going to be hard for us.
When they turn up and come back and says, yeah, we find these 4 policemen not guilty. How is it going to go? We're going to lower down our heads and just carry on walking down. We're not having that this time.
I think what's very alarming and what does add to the lack of community confidence in the whole police complaint system is the fact that despite 10 unlawful killing verdicts, and what I mean by that is juries at inquests have decided beyond reasonable doubt that excessive or unlawful force has been used, and yet there has never been a successful prosecution of any police officer. You see time and again deaths occurring where there is clear evidence of excessive or unlawful use of force, or even in cases where people have not received the proper treatment and care that was owed to them, and you see no criminal charges or disciplinary charges being brought against the individuals responsible. And I think that sends out a very clear message that somehow the police are above the law, but that the lives of those who've died are meaningless.
If they can do that to Mark, they can do that to anybody. And I can understand the fear of a lot of, because I speak to Mark's friends, Marlon's friends, the fear, that black boys, mixed race boys have of the police. It's a case, I don't know, it seems like a them and us kind of war.
As the figures demonstrate, it's not the fact that more people from BME communities die in police custody or following police contact, it's the circumstances in which they die. And they are much more likely to be disproportionately represented in deaths in contentious circumstances, and in particular deaths following the use of force.
It's an important thing when you put on that uniform. We need to trust the police, work with the police, believe in the police. And I want more ethnic minorities particularly to join the police. But that means if someone dies as a result of a police bullet, it must be properly investigated independently. And we need to be sure that if a police officer is at fault, then they will feel the hard pressure of the law like anybody else.
Another controversial issue is the stop and search regime and the challenging relationship between police and many young people.
Why is he being arrested? Why are you taking this person away? Why is he being arrested?
It worries me that we're seeing the police service moving towards a police force that don't appear to recognise and value the importance of working together with people in the community.
There's a lot of animosity between young people and police. I think it's people who hold a certain level of power over you walking the streets and you being at the mercy of them.
This stuff with the police ain't just happening now. Riots ain't just happening now. This ain't just happening. This happens around the planet with police, you get what I'm saying? But in London, there is definitely a problem with the police and how they're talking to young children.
Stop and searching is quite humiliating. I've got two brothers who are younger than me and they would get stopped and searched constantly. They'd always be getting put in police cells for absolutely ridiculously minor things, head-butted in the face. And it's just like, you feel angry against that somebody's holding power of you. It's like having a mean parent.
I've been standing at the end of my road waiting to get picked up by one of my friends, and I've been stopped and searched.
So stereotyping?
Yeah, I'm just standing there. And obviously, even when I've tried to explain myself, I've been still spoke to like, I don't know, like a piece of shit on my trainer, to be honest.
If you get stop and search, you couldn't even talk to a police officer on a level because he wouldn't talk to you on a level. So there you go, already there, you're out of it. Already, like you're out of it. You can't even have a one-on-one conversation with a police officer and feel easy. You're straight away, you're just like, you know what, hurry up, do what you gotta do and leave me alone, innit? Go on, hurry up. So I just stand there, I'm just like this.
I have a child to support now, come on, and yet I'm still getting harassed by the police.
When I speak to different young people, it's clear to me that some young people are routinely and constantly stopped. If you've been in trouble with the police once or twice before, I think you get constantly stopped. If, frankly, if you're black and wearing a hoodie and walking down Tottenham High Road or Beckham High Road, you might get stopped. But I'm not clear that all young people are stopped because it depends on your profile, and that's the difficulty. But then we have to ask ourselves, who on the whole is finding themselves caught up with knife crime? So this is not straightforward. This is very, very difficult.
I'm not about to change the way I look on my clothing for you to not stop and search me. So really, and that's how everyone thinks, like, oh, if I come out in a shirt, I'll look all right. It's like, why should you have to think that? Why should you have to dress in a decent shirt for you to not get stopped by the police?
They're not even thinking straight. You close all the youth clubs. They're not going to stay in the house, they're going to walk around. But if they get caught walking around and there's more about 3 or 4, you know, your son, I've got a son, he's got loads of mates, you know, so they can't all walk around together, because if they walk all around together, the police will pull them because they're seen as, well, they could be a gang. They're not a gang. Do you know what I mean?
We can't get away from the fact that stop and search, although it's a blunt instrument, it's one that's working. It's one that the police leads in its armoury. What the problem is incivility. How does the police behave? You can't grab a young person, sling them up against the wall, call them sonny and all of that. That doesn't work. That creates a problem.
We spend a lot of time and effort in training our staff, in educating them, in recruiting them from communities in London so that they can be representative. That relationship, though, is, I think it's always going to be a challenge, because, you know, nobody wants to be stopped going about their business. Nobody wants to be told they've done something wrong. But on occasion, the police have to do that role.
I do think a lot of young people, especially from our community, the black community, have got a problem where they will never engage with the police. You know, they seem to have this hatred of the police. And I think that's really is stupid. You know, it may seem offensive what I'm saying, but I think it's really stupid. You cannot change the situation unless you become engaged.
I guess it's a challenge because, you know, a lot of our officers, day in, day out, they deal with the very worst aspects of society. And of course they do become a bit cynical. I think as a police leader, my challenge is to keep them upbeat, positive, professional, when all they're dealing with, all of their professional life is nasty incidents of one degree or another. We have millions of interactions with communities in a year, and most of the time we'll get that right. It's where we get it wrong that we have to look at why that went wrong, deal with it appropriately, and learn lessons from it.
Don't just see me with my NY hat and my hood outside my block. I think you can stop and search me anytime, no, because I work, pay tax, vote, and do a lot of it. And I'm not the only one as well. There's a lot of other guys like me.
There are no doubts that the recession and the cuts have had some kind of effect on the majority of people in our society. But exactly what kind of effect is it having on the public? And how do people across England feel right now?
I think we do live in a broken society, and I think politicians have broken it.
What the kids are saying nowadays is there's no justice, there's just us. So help us to be able to help ourselves if you can't do the job that you're elected to do, because government, they have a responsibility for improving areas like this. But what they do, because they know in areas like this people are less inclined to vote and such, nobody does anything for them.
I mean, there are some pretty pertinent statistics which I think the government was willfully ignoring in the aftermath of the riots, and it's things like the fact that they cut 75% of the youth services budget nationwide. That led to, in Tottenham specifically, 8 out of 13 youth centres closing in the borough, which is not insignificant. That's a massive kind of depletion of resources.
Everybody that worked here had this terrible sinking feeling, because actually everybody knew this was going to happen. This was the toughest summer with the least provision for young people to keep them busy and active and engaged.
I mean, I think with all of the cuts, I mean, obviously the economic climate is more challenging than any we've ever seen before. And central government has made cuts to all local authority funding, but local authorities chose where they placed their cuts. And I think it was incredibly short-sighted and actually unnecessary to make 75% cuts in Haringey Youth Services.
I think it's very difficult when we talk about cuts. Obviously, we've lived beyond our means as a society, without a doubt. You know, when people borrow money, which is more than their salary, and the banks encourage that and all of that sort of stuff.
I think you've cut them too much. Should have cut them less. And we're going through more next year, and it'd be worse than the Russians in the war. That's the opinion of an old lady.
The problem is much deeper than, obviously, this government. As I say, I think it's been boiling up to this moment for the last 20 to 30 years. How many people are going to afford £9,000 a year? So that generation are not only unemployed, not only face a bleak future, but actually are being told to, shut up and sit down and go away.
There's anger, of course. There's a lot of anger. Like, young people don't have nothing to do no more. Do you know what I mean? They've got nothing to lose. It's not like they're studying and they've got a degree to lose or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Their parents can't afford to even put them in uni half of the time now.
We've got a number of students who come to our sixth form, and they really rely on those EMA payments, and I think it's a disaster, because when we talk about access to further and higher education, you're talking about young people for whom it's very difficult to do so because financially it's a real strain. And the real worry about it is if you're losing those young people to further and higher education because they can't afford to do it, then you're reinforcing the very gap that exists between the haves and the have-nots.
Most people are frustrated because there are a lot of cuts, and at the end of the day, the government's looking out for themselves and the rich people. Yeah, it's true.
There's no doubt at all that all the statistics show it, that in this country the gap between rich and poor is growing wider and wider, and it's now accelerating at a very fast rate.
These kids get nothing. They're not allowed to sign on. The little EMA that they was getting was given away. If we're going to talk about handouts, let's talk about how much billions the government gave to the bankers. You want to talk about handouts? I mean, you can't get more than that. You want to talk about handouts? Let's talk about how the MPs help themselves to handouts from the public purse.
So the people have to bail out the banks. The people lose their jobs as a result, but still have to bail out the banks. The people have increased taxes, but still have to bail out the banks. But if you look around the world at the moment, as we sit here today, what's happening in New York? People have come out on the streets in New York and trade unions today saying we've had enough of being told that we have to effectively pay for the errors of the financial institutions. It's happening in Athens. It's happening in Italy. It's happening in Spain. And the figures out today in The Guardian show that it's 1 million out of 2.5 million unemployed are between the ages of 16 and 24. And then people turn around and say, this is shocking, it is shocking, it is outrageous, but actually, and I'm not condoning it, I'm just saying this is the explanation. This is an explosion of anger. It shouldn't have happened, but we're all responsible for it because we have not paid enough attention to the provision, not just of money, but of a psychological space in which people are recognised.
It's been quite a struggle at the moment, like hardly ever hear back from anything that I apply to. There's not a lot of young help for young people at the moment.
I've been applying for jobs for like the past year and I ain't got nothing. I know for a fact, if I had a job, I would have went to do nothing like that because I'm not going to spoil my chances for the future because I know that if I get arrested and I get a criminal record, me trying to find a job again is going to be even harder than it is now.
It demotivates a lot of people when you're telling them, oh, there's this many unemployed and unemployment's reached this kind of level, and it just kind of puts people in that state of mind, well, okay, there's no point looking for a job because even if I do get a job, I can't pay for my stuff. Yeah? And if I do get a job, it's not going to be a job I like because there are not many jobs because everyone's unemployed.
At the moment, it's pretty difficult. Like, there's a lot of young people my age trying to get jobs and trying to make money, and they're just trying to get responsibility for themselves.
If they do care about us fully, we wouldn't be feeling like we need attention, because I feel the whole riot thing was just an attention, so you can screaming out, look, you shouldn't do that.
That's what the riots was, an opportunity, innit? They gave us an opportunity to riot. We rioted. That's the only opportunity I see at the moment.
This is what we're taught from the government. Go to another country, if they don't listen to us and what we want to say to them, then we go and bomb them and burn them out their houses and then steal all their oil. And I thought it was a joke when I was like going past and there was this poster of like, look at all these looters. I thought, well, where's the picture of all the MPs? Look at all these expenses stealers.
I mean, the corruption, they go to jail, but worse, the kind of, it doesn't matter, I can kind of get away with this. And I think in terms of setting an example, I don't see how you can say to kids, do like I do, if you're doing is not so proper yourself.
There is no moral leadership coming from within any of the political parties. Problems begin with Thatcherism. It begins with the material world in which As she used to say, there's no society. It's all about the individual. Followed very closely by another Thatcherite called Tony Blair, who really was better at Thatcherism than even Margaret was. And they created an environment in which young people growing up in that period found themselves concerned with how much money they were going to make and how quickly they could make it.
Some young people have developed this mentality that it's all about the money, okay? So they use getting the money as a means of justifying their behaviors. But the reality is they've bought into that because they haven't got much else to buy into.
Everything's getting cut back so the rich can be richer and the poor can be poorer. And now we're from the era of these young people are awake. They're very awake, but they just don't know how to fight properly.
Why is the society over here an environment where people feel that looting is acceptable?
They overshadowed the rioting and Mark Duggan's death just because man ran up in JD Sports.
I made like a good 3 trips, took clothes, jewelry, electrics, anything. I even took a DVD box set of Harry Potter. And I don't even like Harry Potter. I never seen one of the movies in my life. Because it's there, I know it's free, so I'm taking it. The looting was something that you sit around and talk with your friends. Oh, imagine all the shops on the high road was open. You could go in there and take whatever you want. That's something you don't expect to happen. So when it's actually happened, I thought, wow, I need to take advantage of the situation because this is never going to happen again.
When you're stuck in this materialistic world, having the new thing is everything, you get me? Ralph's on a hype now, so everyone wants Ralph. So if you can't afford it, then you're thinking, boy, who am I, you get me? Just like in school, if you ain't got the fresh kicks, then men are thinking like, why go on with you?
People just get too much influence off celebrities and the media these days, and they don't think for themselves as much.
I feel that the world saw people that they would have never seen before, because these people who they were seeing don't normally get that sort of exposure, and when they did, I feel like we wasted it, to be honest, because I feel like we got everyone to turn their heads round and look at us, and we had everyone's attention, and all we asked for was new trainers or new television.
With all the doom and gloom, negativity and anger surrounding us all, is there any hope?
Sometimes it takes a disaster to make certain things come to fruition. I think one of the few positive things to come out of the events that took place was the way the community responded. I was really heartened to see the way how people came out in numbers. I know personally of people that came out the day after and took part in the cleaning up operation and so on and so forth, and you know the way that people came and donated more clothes and more goods actually than they could take at the centres. I thought that was really, really good, and so you know that feeling of pulling together was important.
The only response that a lot of Londoners had to the riots was this riot clean-up where everyone got brooms and attempted to kind of sweep up the rubbish the following days. Now that symbolically to me, that you know obviously strikes me as a good thing initially. People are like, yeah, I want to tidy up my area. But symbolically, the idea of just sweeping away these troubles rather than trying to understand them was really problematic. And we do need to look at how our communities function alongside one another and within one another if we're to stop this kind of thing happening again.
So, the question that everyone's asking is, what are the solutions?
I'm not asking the government to like give us all 3 loaves of bread, because that simply wouldn't work, but like we're all resourceful, creative young people. What I am asking them for is just simply the opportunities for us to be able to bake our own bread.
We have to look at equality in this country. We have to look at equality. We have to look at ensuring that every child gets the resources that they need to get a decent education, to have the kind of a decent home to live in.
It's my opinion that a lot of them haven't got hope. But a lot of them, and quite a few young people have said that to me, there's no hope. I've got a criminal record, I've got no hope now, why bother?
you understand what I'm saying to you? And if you can still a little bit of hope in them, they are the future. So we need to turn around and work on our future generation now. Otherwise, it's going to be too late because they're going to be parents themselves.
Look, get off the road. That's the first thing, yeah. Second thing is, obviously, everyone's got told by their parents that get your education, get your education, get your education, get your education. That is the one. That is the word you need to send out. Like, get your education. Yes, that is the one. It sounds long, yeah? 5 years in school is nothing, and then other 3-4 years after college. If I really thought about it, by the time you're 18, you're nice. By the time you're 18, you're nice, innit? So just come off the road.
But they need to encourage more apprenticeships, but real apprenticeships, where young people can get an apprenticeship. Not because some young people, like I said, you've got the ones that can't, are not that academic. Encourage more apprenticeship and encourage more businesses to get involved within the community.
There should be more solid projects out there where young people can actually learn skills on the projects and not have to wait till they get to 16 or 17, then to be told, oh yeah, you can learn this skill. Now I think, boy, if you put the tools in the hands of some teenagers, early 13, 14-year-olds, show them how to do it and then let them get on with some guidance like that, you know, you'd be quite surprised what they can come off with.
Cribs had a big effect on my life because I'm surrounded by mentors and people that I can relate to who can help me in different situations. And so with the guidance of people like Jeanette and Carleen who started up the crib, there's a sense of family here.
Look to more grassroots organisations for the solution rather than look to the people right at the top. Do you know what I mean? Because they're the people that actually live it.
I think they should try work with the youth workers, yeah, and get certain youth workers in certain areas, community centres, so they can communicate with the younger guys, and hopefully, you know, like just make them believe in themselves that they got something better to do in life.
I've worked with some of the young people that nobody can get respect from. They're just wild and out and crazy. When I sit with them and I'm like, I see potential in you. I know that like you can become something great. You just see a whole new person materialise. Because when my eyes see someone that's amazing, they start becoming amazing in front of you.
I think the youth of today are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful young people. They inspire me. But I think we're looking after them very, very badly.
I think we just need more time spent in community, bringing police and young people together.
The key thing is more events like we've had today, more opportunities for the police, for responsible bodies to hear what's on the mind of the public and young people, and also to explain some of our behaviours. Because you know, a lot of the tension that we see is simply because we don't understand. Either we don't understand communities, or communities haven't had chance to hear why we're doing what we do.
We're an arts organisation, so we are passionate about the transformative power of being involved in an arts activity. But what the arts do is they say everything you as a human being bring into the classroom has a value in making something creative and artistic. You don't have to leave anything behind. You don't have to take your hood off. You don't have to pretend that you don't come from where you come from. Everything about you, we celebrate.
The first youth arts project that I got involved in when I was 16, I'm still involved in now, and at the time I didn't know it, but that completely changed my life.
Centrepoint is an organisation run by young people. You know, it works for young people. A lot of our campaigns are around raising the aspirations of young people and motivating young people to go out there and achieve what they want to achieve.
Give young people the opportunity to sing for their dinner.
I've got other dreams apart from just university, so the way I see it, I'm going to make sure I keep working hard in whatever I do and try and make sure that I'm somewhere sustainable in the future wherein I can look after my family and look after myself and make sure everyone around me is smiling.
Change comes with one, and it comes with one person. And it's down to all of us to work together to make the change. Each and all of us in every community, from the bottom right up to the top.
It's everyone's responsibility. Everyone plays a part, man.
Each individual has a contribution to make to society, and if we could somehow capture that and make sure that people were aware of their own self-worth and their own value as individuals, I think that would be a major start.
communities need to take the reins back and make government work for us.
There has to be a sense of purpose that comes out of the riots about kind of communities kind of bonding sort of better. And how that happens, well, it's down to all of us to kind of get to know our neighbours, I suppose.
Finally, there is a universal feeling that the moment is coming. Even in the United Kingdom, I think the moment is coming.
You know, even if you're a young person, you can make a difference in the world. And I am a strong believer in someone and a group of people making a difference in the world if they change their attitude and if you work together.
The solution belongs to all of us, right? We have to start becoming a community again.